This is the weekly Wednesday at Business School of AI, where we reviewed the AI ethics jobs landscape. This is part 2, where we go over variety of different AI ethic job roles and review the open jobs that's available out there today.
What I wanted to do today is we're going to focus on AI ethics jobs. And I'm going to go through my sorted version. We sent you one yesterday. And if you have not gotten it, I will go to Business School of AI, and there is a link which says the AI ethics course. Click on that. Even if you're not interested in the course, there's a form you can fill and you will get into our list, and we can send you the jobs list. We want to send you the jobs list because we are not holding this is built out of work of people like Rebecca Tweed out there. So and there are many places where jobs are listed, what we have done is more to organize it, and the real meat of the value is going to be the discussion today on how do you career pivot and build transferable skills. So to get us to that frame of thinking, I found this from PwC about a survey about how organizations are thinking about responsible AI. And there is this concept called AI governance, and large companies are creating AI governance organizations. And so you would see some jobs which says AI governance, only if it is a leadership job at the highest level, creating that org. Rest of the jobs inside the AI governance org do not have the word governance in the title. They are called all kinds of different things. So we'll look at that in a minute. And then if you think about, again, I wanted to share this because this shows, what kind of things are people looking at, why they need responsible AI. So that is what goes into the various jobs that bring AI, responsible AI into companies. So if you see in the middle, 61% say create transparent, explainable, provable AI models. So creating transparency to AI is a huge job. Explainable AI is a little bit more technical in terms of tools that's available today, but the concept of making it explainable and measuring risk and the governance part of it is it's not a tech job. It's about understanding AI, understanding data ethics. Then you see 64% says security, boost security with validation, monitoring, verification. These are all like program function. And then 52% says improve governance with AI operating models. So the operationalizing and processes is a very, very, very big part because there's no standard. So the way it happened is there are AI models built by data scientists, and there were not any tools that they could build any governance or any kind of framework to do this in the enterprise. So the way it was done is there's this thing called Jupyter Notebook, which is an online tool where you can build an AI model. So developers were building, data scientists were building these models, and then they would copy and give copies of their Jupyter Notebook. I have sat through AI machine learning courses where they say, oh, copy this Jupyter Notebook and walk through, and we will teach you how to do NLP and how to do machine learning or something like that. So data scientists and developers started doing that inside companies. And so think about it, if somebody builds an AI model and says, okay, we are going to help you with hiring, and we can find out who are the candidates coming in, and we are going to filter for some criteria, and somebody builds an AI in the company. The next person, an HR says, this doesn't quite work for us, right? We need to tweak this model. And so somebody else in the team would say, hey, I built a better model built off that. So they would fork the previous model and then they would create another one. So at some point, which is close to reality of where we are, there are several different models and copies of it. And while something is good, say some HR says, okay, this looks good, let's go test this out and try it on the next batch of interns that we are going to hire as a sourcing tool. And meanwhile, the engineers are going off and working. So there's something else. And that's the thing with AI, it's constant learning and they keep iterating. So there is complete chaos with a lot of different models with complete lack of transparency on what goes into their brains. Okay, so that creates opportunities for somebody like you to come in and bring in the processes, bring in what needs to be done right. Okay, so I wanted to kind of give you the context of this. Okay, if I share the full screen, Zoom doesn't allow me to go back naturally. So sorry about that, guys. Okay, so there's a lot of operationalizing. So the whole AI development cycle, how it is done, what are the different roles, and how do you actually operationalize the AI once it is done? The governance framework of is the big picture. And within that, to make that happen, how do you build it? If you're building this product for a customer, how do you do this? And then the 47% is a small number who are basically saying they want to test for bias in data and the human use of algorithm. That is bubbling up to be a bigger one. And I hope more of you will get involved in that, so that doesn't stay at 47%. And then 30% says that they don't have any plan on addressing AI issues. So definitely that's where you're all going to go and drive change. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is you've already seen the AI jobs list. I'm going to zip through that for literally 5 minutes because I have 5 slides. And I'm going to talk to that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to um, see if Susanna agrees to do it the same way, but unless she has something to add, and then we will go into breakout rooms. Okay, does that work fine, Susanna? Okay, so here's a list of different kind of roles. We put this up front because we want you to relate to any of these roles we are looking at. So you could be a business user who's identifying the problem, like the HR person who wants to solve a problem. It could be a growth manager who says, I need to increase revenues for my region, and how do I increase revenues? And they're used to doing it a certain way and they want to use AI. There's a bunch of roles which are data engineers, ML engineers, data visualization experts, who are all involved in creating the actual model and deploying the model, the iterating the model that I was telling you about, the Jupyter notebook. There's a lot of people who just play with data as depending on the size of the organization. And then there's several business owners, business unit owners who consume the output, whose job is to drive the business outcome. So maybe they are creating cost efficiency, and they work closely in providing feedback to the machine learning engineers. That's kind of the machine learning cycle. And then there is one of the things that I cover in all my classes is business development is a very important function in any new exponential technology, because you create partnerships, and the business development people are creating data partnerships. So there might be an AI model that is being built, and then they finish it, and they find that it is not very efficient. The way you measure efficiency in AI is by the percentage of confidence that the AI has. Suppose the self-driving car is going to drive around in Mountain View, where I walk around, and it only has 50% confidence to know whether the person crossing the road is a human. That's like a toss of a coin. And so if the developer says, okay, now I've got 60% confidence, is that better? Who decides that amount of confidence is better? So the business people need to be involved in actually operationalizing transparency in some form. That's what, when we are talking about transparency, is about how the brains of the AI works. And then I spoke a little bit about, without using the word MLOps, which is about operationalizing the whole deployment of the AI and the various versions and the ownership of the models itself, not the data. And then a big part of all this is it's deployed as products that touches customers, so leading the product development. So all the business roles that was not done by the data scientists fell to product managers. So initially, you will see a lot of engineers becoming product managers, and a lot of product managers being pulled in to become AI product managers. So there's a lot of jobs which are just called product manager, whatever, for product, and inside they assume AI. And now the change I'm seeing is they're just not expecting you to know AI, but they're expecting you to create transparency, remove data bias, and things like that, which are all AI ethics functions. So I have a big list of product management jobs that we will be reviewing. And then there are explicit roles like what Diawin does in Amazon AWS. And there's a job actually from Amazon AWS that I mentioned, which is called ML AI Ethicist. I just love this because this is about working with customers to bring diversity and make sure that the data is not biased. And why would the customer listen? What is the value in it? And how do you ensure their success? Is it going to increase the cost? Are they already educated about it? You don't want to be preachy. One of the things we are thinking about the jobs when you're talking about it, you're going to be change agents, but you don't need to go pick up a fight. You must have seen a lot in news about companies who have AI ethics and who are doing good, who are not doing good, and things like that. But I want to make sure that we are not talking about AI ethicists as roles where you have to go pick up a fight and have conflict. We're thinking about you bring your existing job roles, and there are functions you can do. You just learn AI ethics, incorporate it into the job, and it is going to do good for the company, for the customers, make you feel like you're doing a decent thing when you get up in the morning, because you're going to unleash this AI out into the world. Okay, so that's the list of responsible AI related jobs, or in what's involved. And there's a bunch of program manager roles, bunch of researcher roles. We are going to be looking at that. Okay, so the common AI jobs titles I see is product management, a lot of program management, and I'll show you in a minute how it breaks down. And there's a lot of creative types of jobs. They are called UX designers, design thinking, service design, visual content producer. There are a couple of those jobs, and it all comes to a creative person who's a designer who thinks the human interface first. And there's a bunch of marketing, social media marketing, digital marketing jobs for companies who are creating technology products to create transparency, to reduce bias, explainable AI products. But in their title, they clearly call it as AI ethics. Though I find that it's not AI ethics, it's an AI ethics product that is being built and sold. But I believe the concept that the company decided to create an AI ethics product means that everybody in there understands AI ethics, and they are going to work with customers to bring AI ethics by using their tools. So it looks like a vanilla social media marketing or digital marketing role, but the expectation is you understand bias in AI, bias mitigation, and creating transparency, explainability, inclusiveness. Those are the themes of AI ethics that you will learn when you take the course with us, or if you're not able to take the course, you still want some resources. We have tons of resources, and given Susanna's access to the world of AI ethics, there's no dearth of material that we can share with you. But we are hoping the idea of the course is that you will come, have a discussion, build a personal journey, and move into learning this so that you can go into one of these jobs. And then there's a bunch of policy jobs. I group the policy jobs as research that is focused on privacy research. It's about data ownership and privacy and what is policy related to that. And then I found it fascinating that there are 9 jobs from technology companies. They are very similar. As a person applying for jobs, you want to apply to similar jobs at the same time. We found that these 9 jobs are similar across various big name tech companies, but the job has an outbound component. So all of the jobs in policy and operations, governance, even product management, program management, is about working collaboratively with variety of different roles. But the policy job in tech companies, these tech companies that I have listed separately, it's about working with across the company. Say Facebook has one role, Google has a role, similar job roles, and they're saying work with people across functions, especially the Facebook one spells it out very explicitly. Work with different groups, different products who are across the company, and that's assumed in many of these jobs. But then they're saying go outbound and go find out what is happening in the government, what is happening with think tanks and other AI ethicists who are trying to drive policy and influence that and bring that back to us. So it's kind of a very outbound role, which I found interesting for a policy role. So obviously, if you're applying for a policy role, which is about developing privacy programs, working collaboratively with the company, that will expect a certain kind of skills, a bit different from this tech company policy jobs, which is outbound. So they would look for you to have some kind of government liaison or experience driving policy in some form already, or you're part of that circle, or your role would be that. In fact, I found one leadership job which was about governance and operational leadership, which was completely about running events related to policy and governance. So it was literally an event manager could go do the job if they just knew AI ethics. And of course, there are jobs for lawyers, and HR is some function that is not talked enough about, but I think that's a very big part of it. So as I promised to zip through this, you have all this in the list of jobs that's been given to you. So a group of program management jobs, again, you can see in companies like Facebook and Google, and Aspen Institute has one. Aspen Institute's job, I think I shared this on LinkedIn yesterday. So if you're not part of our Business School of AI LinkedIn page, please join us. We'll be sharing a lot of resources there. So this one is more, Aspen Institute is like a consultant, a researcher for who's focused on minors and children, essentially on data privacy of children and what is the evolving policy related to that. I remember a policy document float around looking for feedback that I've seen about it. So if somebody is looking at this job, and you can do this remote, I believe it's 3 months contract. So some of you who are thinking, I'm new to this, but I want to develop experience, this would be a perfect one. There's a bunch of privacy ones. Okay, so this is one set of program management jobs. The other set of program management jobs is the one I was telling you, the 9-1 in the tech companies, which are more outbound. There's one also from a research fellow in Center for Democracy Technology. Then there's a bunch of, this is the other batch. Again, I've grouped based on what the job rec is. In looking at the job rec, I've just organized that. And then I mentioned this designer, writer, creative roles, and they're called, if you see, they're called UX researcher or a writer, but it's called senior product inclusion writer. And so this is more like a visual storyteller and writer, but it's about inclusion and diversity. So they expect you to have worked in inclusion and diversity. Otherwise, sometimes it's just called by this content designer number 2, things like that. But it's a similar role. This content designer number 2 and this content specialist for ethical and inclusive products from Salesforce and this senior product inclusion writer are all same roles. It's just called by 3 different titles. And in Salesforce, they decided to include ethical and inclusive in the title, but it's literally similar roles. Okay. There's a bunch of product marketers, and they also, I mentioned the same thing. And the governance roles have governance or managing directors or something in their title. Again, you can see it's called a lot. Some of them are called data. It's focused on data ethics, which is to take, so depending on the company. So there's a bunch of companies which are not technology companies, but they are companies, large companies, which apply technology. So they are sitting on a lot of data. So when they call it governance or their roles, what they're thinking is, we have a lot of data. We want somebody to come sift through this data and make sure that we are building ethical applications. So you're not building the applications, you are going to be this governance leader working across the organization, looking at the variety of data. So banks are doing that. Amex has a role, the US bank has a role. They both are similar roles. In fact, I think I saw one more role which was also related to a similar data ethics leadership role. This is an interesting one. Data for Black Lives has inclusion and diversity leadership role. They've given it to a executive hiring firm, and they are looking at data to actually make sure that they bring in diversity and inclusion to have, because most of the data out there does not have Black people represented. So they want to make sure that they're looking at the broader data out in the world that is being used in all kinds of applications to drive change. And so this is a person who's very data savvy, but has worked in diversity and inclusion, very passionate about that. And then I mentioned about the senior ML ethicist, and we'll hear back from Dia and we can tell you more about that. So one of the things I think I've had this designer marketing thing repeat here. Product management is to go build those. Again, a lot of product management roles involves privacy and ownership, or actually build the data life cycle itself. And then lawyers, HR, I mentioned that. There's a bunch of roles which are for interns, if that's interesting. So should we take like a 10 minutes group, or should we take questions? Susanna, what do you think we should do? I went
think we
longer
can
than
take questions.
we can.
I believe people are
Yeah.
already asking. So
Okay. Okay. So do you want to look at that and see
I
what
think
they're
I
saying?
answered them. But if anybody has any more questions or had any more doubts based on the roles and the
Okay. Virtuous
categorization.
AI.
Hmm.
Virtuous AI is another word. Ethical AI, inclusive AI. There's a whole bunch of categories, transparent AI, that kind of thing. So I wanted to do one thing to see whether people, to just get a feel for what kind of background are people coming from. So I wanted to see whether we could do a breakout room just to get people on a
Okay.
discussion. Can we do that? Like,
Yeah, sure.
and if you don't mind, can you just even say, if based on various titles that you've seen, are you seeing uh, are they program managers, project managers, product managers, lawyers? How do you self-identify yourself? If you can write that, we would love it. That would give us perspective. Yeah, product manager. Oh yeah, hi Varsha, good to see you
Hi.
here. Okay, uh, we are not going to do a breakout group where we are going to arrange people in different groups on backgrounds, because the reality of building AI is that you work cross-functionally. So what we will do is we will product owner, more product people. Hi Salome. Okay.
Professor,
Um,
product owner. Hmm.
yeah. And I believe Salome is my student from Stanford, and she was telling me, she works in UK, how a product owner role is different from product management, and they separated out as two different roles in UK government where she works. Okay, so should we do the breakout session, guys? Will that are you okay with that? Then we'll just do 3 groups, and then me and Susanna will come into the groups. So what we are going to do in the breakout groups is, um, based on what you have seen, right? I want to have a discussion on what are the top 3 skills that you think are needed, and maybe you bring that skill, or maybe you think you need to learn that skill. By having a conversation with somebody else in the room, I hope you get validation of what you're thinking, or you add something new to your list of what you already know. And my belief is that everybody in this room already has at least 60% or more of the skills that's needed to do most of these jobs. And some of you might even have more. And so and I'm a believer, if you have 60% of the skills, you should apply for the job. And if you're thinking of going into that field, you need to apply for it, and uh, you might be able to learn what is missing. You can apply for some of these jobs to kind of get that skill, get that validation or feedback from the market. So ethics, yes, Adiwale was talking to us just when he got started. He actually works on ethics, and was discussing about how even if you build trustworthy AI, it is not ethical AI. So I hope you have Adiwala in your breakout rooms. You can have a fun discussion. Okay, awesome. So thank you, Susanna, for that. Your top 3 strongest skills, and what I want out of the breakout room is for you to come out saying, these are the top 3 skills that we believe that we need for any of the AI ethics jobs that you saw out there, and whether people in that breakout session have those skills. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to random organize people. Since you're not objecting, I'm assuming that's a yes. Is that okay, guys? Yeah. Professor, yes. And a math professor too, Eugenia. I don't have an answer for your question that you put in
Crash.
put in our.
But they saying that's because they want to eliminate the early test crashing, and they want to make it more.
Okay, and stats, yes. So that's perfect. Okay, so now let me do the breakout room. 1 second. And if you want to, if you have questions, please type it, and then we might be able to let you speak and do that too. So you don't have to 3 breakout rooms. Yeah. So I'm just going to automatically assign and go. Yeah. And I'll tell you when there's a minute warning. Yeah. Okay. It always happens. I've been sitting on this jobs list for so long. Yeah. Everybody should be assigned to a breakout room. I'm still seeing some, I'm seeing Salome's smiley face. Lubna, you must be part of a breakout room soon. So me and Susanna are going to walk in and come find you. Yes.
This is the final session from our jobs review where people came back from breakout sessions and had such a fun conversation.
Are they all joining in?
Yes.
I believe
Jump in.
Varsha had asked a question. I was answering that. It's about the practice of, whether the practices, the laws and regulations like GDPR would be the right direction, and if the companies are going to follow that route. I do think they will have to, because the push is now coming both internally and externally going forward. And so, yeah, I think there's some feedback. I don't know if it's from me.
No, it's not. It's fine.
Okay,
so
yes.
I'm just saying people are coming back now. I think Susanna was in one of the groups, so we are continuing on the discussion, and I just got a sneak peek of the variety of discussion that was happening between the two rooms. So I wanted to ask people, and feel free to unmute and speak up from each of the groups. Did you find any particular skill that you already have? Question 1 is, I said I'll ask you for top 3, but I'm not going to. So did you find one particular skill that you already have that you think that will help with any of the AI ethics jobs from what you saw and from your discussion with the teams? If you want, you can chat, or if you want, you can speak up. We have a small group.
You can unmute yourself and speak up.
Yeah.
No need to be off camera.
Yeah,
this is the live
that's
discussion.
True. If you can.
One thing I heard, this is Adam Glickman, is the ability to work with a lot of diverse stakeholders. I heard stakeholders, but then we kind of framed it more like that, and also the need for not just the oversight responsibility, but the ability to act upon it with the ethicist. Their word needs to have credence to the bigger organization.
Yep. Okay, thank you for that. Anything else anybody would add that you already have the skill and you just got the aha saying, I can do this job, I get it now? Because typically when you look at the job, you're saying writer, designer, product management, and you would think of it as just a functional role, but there's a lot more subtlety. And I saw that in some of the discussions. So many of you have it. And then tell me about, does anybody else want to add? Susanna, would you add anything from what you saw from the rooms?
Yes, I think most of them have all of the skills that
that's what even I felt, I think everybody in this room can actually go apply for some of these jobs. And if maybe you can start with, out of the 10, you can pick one of them and you can go through the exercise and shape your resume and start listing what you bring. You have to update your resume and cover letter for the job. Start doing that. And you will see you have the 60% jobs skills that you already have.
It's the whole AI ethics field is not going to be limited to one job title. Like there's not going to be an AI ethicist in every company, and all the product managers and designers and UX designers have now to go and listen to them. It's not going to be like that. Ethics is going to be embedded into each of the roles that you are, applying for. So when that is being, implemented, that's actually being implemented within companies now. So when you have that ethical background, it's not just you are answerable to one person. So you can actually, ditch around them and go behind them and do whatever you want. You now have to answer to your entire team because all of them are ethicists now. The product manager, the product owner, the product designer is an ethicist. So how will you answer to all of them, all
Yeah.
their questions? So that's where it is going now, and that's where it should be going, I believe, very strongly. It's not like uh, you have seen what happened with Google when you have an ethicist there in the room, and the ethicist starts bringing out all these, unfair and unethical practices. It's very easy to kick that one person out, and that's what Google did with Timnet, and that's what many companies are now doing. I like they will have an ethics board or an ethics committee, and then that person will be switched out or kicked out or transferred, or it's very easy to do that. But what if the whole company, everybody there is an ethicist?
So
In
that
that,
is our aspiration, that we wanted to make each of you aware of your role and your power to bring AI ethics into your job. So you're a writer, you could write about inclusive ethics topics and they could hire you for it, but you're going to be in a team when they're designing a product. So even if you think I'm a writer, I'm just going to write about this, but when they're having a discussion about building this and say we are going to create this experience, you might feel it is not right, or there might be a discussion about data ownership or minor rights, and you can speak up because decisions are done by teams of people in companies and it doesn't have to be confrontational. Everyone there is yeah, this is yes. Okay. So that is one, is that ability to work with everybody, and everybody can be an AI ethicist, that you already have the job skills. Is there anything that you, from your discussion from the rest of the people, is there a topic that you felt, I need to learn this? This is new to me. I need to learn this, or I need to figure out how to do this. I heard Eugenio talking about how as a mathematician, as a statistician, now he is in the middle of it. When they're talking about GDPR and how to categorize data, to think about what is inclusive, what is right, what is accepted, that kind of thing. So GDPR is the European law on privacy that is kind of set the precedence for several different privacy laws across the globe. And we have one in California, in US we have across different states. So we have one for California, which is based off GDPR. There's one in Latin America based off GDPR. And so your role could be to just be part of that as a statistician. And
even if you cannot think of the answer to that question now, you should take a few hours, think about it, and let us know via email what are your what are the things that you want to learn from this course.
So that is actually a good point, Susanna. We have a Slack group at Business School of AI. I think I just created one on AI ethics. I can even make one on AI ethics jobs if that's all you want to talk about. But I think I have an AI ethics Slack channel. If you're interested, maybe we can add you to that. And that would be helpful for you to come in and collaborate with each other and have a conversation. So, and it has nothing, if the course is interesting for you, is useful for you, it makes time sense, you can join us. If you don't, it doesn't matter. You should be part of the community and continue the conversation. So if you're open to it, we'll add you to the Slack channel. Yes. And I found that Lubna and I seem to have crossed paths in the IEEE AI Ethics Standards Committee somewhere along the way. And
I think also Horizon NGI, perhaps.
Sorry?
Are you also?
Yes, I'm part of NGI.
Yeah, me too.
Internet. Yes, that could be the other place that we cross paths.
I think that's where I first discovered you, and I was hooked.
Yes, thank you. It was fascinating to hear about your work in the IEEE Standards Committee. So this will be good for us to come and get to know each other. And I keep saying this in our Weekly Wednesday every time. There's so much you can learn from each other. And what I find is, I find it very humbling to be part of this group, that you all find time to come and have this conversation. And thanks to Susanna, we are focusing on AI ethics specifically, not just the joy of AI or AV, as I keep talking about. So that's good. So so next step, I would say, if you are, is there value in me sharing that jobs list in that sorted form that I sent you guys? Because we sent this big list yesterday. There is value. Maybe, I did some pretty organizing, so I want to share that with you.
Good. That's great.
Yeah, we can send that to you, and then I'll add you to the Slack group, or I'll send you the invite and you can get yourself added. I need to figure that out. Yeah.
Here's a follow-up. Ankita Joshi, who's doing one of the master classes in the Career Pivot to AI masterclass, will be joining us on Weekly Wednesday on June 9th as our speaker. Hope I will see you at our Slack channel, or at the course, or at the Weekly Wednesday. Thanks everybody. Stay safe. Bye.